guys, so I've been doing these index cards that I stack. You can find that on my YouTube channel. And it's just like stuff left over on my painting table at the end of an art session that I then just slap onto index cards in a layered way. And I've been really loving the look of them, so I decided I wanted to try a larger scale stack. This is just in my playtime journal. This is a journal that I keep by the couch, and I just do, you know, marker type drawings and paintings while I'm watching crap on TV. But what I like about this is that it's perforated, so that when I do something I can pull it out and glue it into my everyday journal or into something else if I want to. So I'm just starting this piece off with some deli paper tucked underneath, and then I'm going to put some masking tape along the edge where the coil binding is. You don't have to do that. You can just take it out and work just on the loose sheet, but I like having the padding of the book behind me as I'm working. Whoops. This tape I think is getting old because it doesn't tear properly. I probably had this roll of tape for like 3 years. There we go. So I'm just going to find the perforation. Doesn't matter if it's perfectly straight, but this little bit of masking tape is going to prevent any of the mediums that I'm using from going into the coil binding and then impacting the rest of the pages. So all I'm going to use for this stacked spread is papers that I have in my stash, some acrylics paint, maybe some punchinella or other stencils that work, maybe some spray inks, and then I'll add text, and I haven't quite decided yet how I'm going to add text. But the most important part of this spread to get the 3D sort of effect that I want in the stack, in the layers, is the Stabilo All Pencil. But there are a couple of substitutions for you to note. You could use Neocolor II Caradosh crayon. You could use watercolor crayon. You could use Derwent Inktense, or watercolor pencil, or just watercolor, or also acrylics paint. It's just that I find the look of this when I use it the way I'm using it in these stacks really appealing to me, so I will be using this, but you don't need it. You can substitute it with anything that you can make kind of run and smoosh and smudge, and you'll see how I use that later. I have a drawer full of this kind of stuff. So it's text pages, stickers, rub-ons, and smaller scrapbook paper. I also have pages ripped out of Frida Kahlo's diary, tissue paper from Tim Holtz. I may actually use some of this because that would be nice in a stack. Oh look, I have some already ripped out. Perfect. And I love these 6 by 6 or 8 by 8. I can't remember. These are 4 by 6, I think, or a little larger, maybe 5 by 7 scrapbook paper. And then there's these stacks that you can get of the scrapbook paper. I love those as well. But to start the spread off, I'm going to use a larger sheet of scrapbook paper. I have these 8.5 by 11, which is the perfect size, as you can see, for this. And I will, oh, that's beautiful. And I will start there. And I'm going to use soft gel gloss medium. Now you guys have probably heard me say, if you've been with me for any length of time, that I prefer matte medium to gloss medium, because matte medium is quite, it doesn't stick the same way that soft gel does. But for these, I like the soft gel simply because it lets me wipe things off easily. So if something happens that I don't like, I can just wipe it off, and that's a trick that I picked up from Carly Rae Roberts. I think Chrissy Tomlinson does the same. She uses the gel, the soft gel gloss, as kind of a resist. So I'm going to go ahead and begin, and the rest of this will be time-lapsed. This is just a kind of a fun bonus for my Patreon supporters, but I'm releasing it for free for you guys as well. So it will be time-lapse, but I'll caption wherever I feel like you guys need to know what's really going on. so that's it. That was probably about an hour or so of layering. What I especially want you to focus on is the way that the application of the Stabilo underneath and to the side of all the different layers creates a very sort of stacked appearance. Things look a lot more 3D. Some of the papers look like they're floating on top of the spread, which is exactly what I was going for. You could probably stand at this point to just beef that up a little bit in a couple of areas. Like here, I just want a little bit of a shadow over here. And then if you smoosh this out with your finger like that, just smoosh it out, then you should be able to avoid going back in with a brush. You could if you wanted to, but then you're risking getting you know, smearing on your lettering and on your hearts. So try and avoid that. You can also, if there are any elements popping out for you that you really like, that you want to emphasize, you can put a little bit of this around that and smear it, and that's just going to pop that up off the page a little bit, just like so, right? You could also do a little bit of outlining in white or black to pop that up off the page as well. But that's enough for me. I don't need to do much more than that. I just wanted a little tiny bit of emphasis on that moth in the center. At this point, you could pull out your white pen and you could do some doodling. You could do a little bit of outlining. You could circle some of your punchinella. You could do outlines around your lettering, outlines around your hearts, whatever it is that you want to do. But this is really it for me. Like, I'm really happy with the way that this looks. So if I were working on a loose sheet like this and then I wanted to pop this into my journal, I would probably do a tape hinge. I'll show you what that is. Okay, so tape hinge, maybe I'll put that here. Alright, so the first thing that I would do is I would put some pretty paper on the back just so that it looks nicer than what we've got there, which is kind of boring. That's the wrong size, I'll put the right size. The thing with doing it this way is that you could do some journaling on this as well if you wanted to. It's just a really nice way of backing your spreads. I believe if you guys took Lifebook, this is one of the ways that Tam backs her spreads when she's binding them. I'm just using glue stick because why not? And that's just much prettier to look at than a plain backing. You could also edge this with some washi, but I like to edge with the Stays On first. It just distresses the edges. Got a little bit of a white on this side. I'm not too concerned about having this show up on the back side. I don't really care that much about the back side, but I do want the front side to be clean. So like this little area here. This knife is not sharp enough for what I'm doing. Really get in there. Awesome, possum. Okay, and then do a tape hinge. So tape hinges are pretty basic ways of getting things in to your journal. I'm going to use some relatively strong tape. This is a nice strong duct tape from, it's the same stuff as like duct tape is made of, but it's patterned. So a tape hinge is when you strategically place your tape so that it looks all right. You don't want it to be like interfering with the spread too much. This could actually stand to be a little bit closer in, like that. And then fold the tape over onto the other side of the spread, like that. And that's a tape hinge. And then if you want to strengthen that, open it up and put tape over top on the other side. So you would put it in exactly the same place, especially so that the gummy part of the tape that might peek up through the edge of the spread. See there? Do you see that there? You want to cover that. I love little interactive things like this, little things that you can fold into your journal, tip into your journal, that open and close. That kind of thing makes me really happy. And then if you wanted this to be especially stuck, I mean this is really strong tape, I don't think we're going to have any problems with it, but if you were using, for example, masking tape or washi, you might want to do a little application of gel medium on that just to keep that on there, but I don't think that's going to go anywhere. And then as far as this side is concerned, you know, this can be the start of your next spread. This can be like a prompt. It can just give you a hint of where you're going to go next. I'm just going to trim that down though. I don't want quite that much tape on there. There we go. Or you can just cover it over with gesso. It's up to you. That's actually just fine, just as it is. Oh, you can also do a strip of tape that covers both the front side and the back side on both sides of this, but this is really cute. There's something really cute about that for me. And then if you wanted to take it to the next level, you could, once you've taped it in like this, you could take an awl. Let me see if I have my bookbinding stuff handy. That might do. Careful not to pierce your fingers, obviously. You could do this with a hole punch as well, but I like the more organic look of the awl. Let's see if I have a proper needle. You can spray this with gloss to make it stiff. I can't believe I don't have a needle. This might help. I'm just using one of these little pokey tools that I have for etching to poke that through. You could also use the awl to poke that through if you wanted to. I'm trying not to rip the pages. And this is just an extra step if you really want to secure it, if you want to make sure that that piece isn't going anywhere. This is a good way to do that. You don't want this tight at all, because then it will prevent it from opening properly. So you just tie it as tight as it needs to be, but not too tight, because it will prevent it from opening. Tie little bows. If you wanted to make these longer and hang beads off of it, you could do that too. And then if you wanted to secure these knots, you could add a little drop of quick dry adhesive. I'm not going to bother. I feel like there's enough adhesive happening here with the tape that these aren't going anywhere. The inside of the hole there is quite sticky. And voila. That was a little too tight, so I'm just going to stretch that out a little bit. There we go. And now it's going to open and close properly. See that? Yay! If you wanted to add a secondary little piece of tape over top here, you could do that as well, but I'm not going to bother. But that is how I like to tip extra spreads into my journal when I've created something on a separate piece of paper, and this is how I like to back it. You can see here there's lots of space here now for any kind of journaling you might want to do. And because we've gone into the page at least about 1/4 of an inch, and these pages are quite thick from all the layering, you're not risking this tearing. This binding will not tear, especially because of the duct tape. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed that. I had loads of fun making it. This is something that I like to do when I'm not feeling like drawing, when I'm not necessarily in the mood to draw. You know, often I'll do really complex spreads with drawings and faces, but sometimes I just like to do this kind of thing where I'm just using papers and stamps to create spreads that express where I'm at in the moment without it taking a million hours and lots of difficult shading and stuff like that. Like this was just made with some photographs and lots of journaling. That was a really easy spread. My go-to is quite complex, but there are times when you just want to do something pretty that doesn't take you forever, that looks complex and has some depth to it. This is an example of that actually, without it requiring a whole lot in the way of drawing skills. So super fun, expresses what you want to express. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you in the Patreon feed if you are one of my Patreon subscribers, or on Facebook or YouTube if you're not. Big love!